This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Shalon, I have to ask you, chocolate or vanilla?
Can I say twist?
Well, you can now. How about French or Italian?
Italian.
Boys or girls?
These are tough. Girls, because I have more of them.
Spicy or mild?
Spicy.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
Shalon Ironroad, welcome to The Speaking Show. Great to have you. It's always nice to kind of see where people stand on these issues because they're so vitally important.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
I've clearly given them a lot of
know what you're
thought.
dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take us on the entrepreneurial journey. The first question that I sometimes like to ask is, what was the crazy winding path of entrepreneurial adventures and life adventures that got you to where you are today?
Winding is a great word for it, and it continues to wind, honestly, but that's the fun way to do it, right? So my entrepreneurial journey started kind of out of necessity. My husband was in law school. We had a small child. He was 1.5 years old at the time. We had moved out of state, and I was trying to work from home from the same company I had been with, and it just wasn't working at the long distance level. And so I was faced with a decision that many parents are. Do we do daycare and go to the office, or do we try and figure something out that's not as traditional? And I did the latter. I had a dear friend who walked me through the process of starting my own business. She had worked with virtual assistants in the past as an author and speaker, and she said what worked and what didn't for her as a client. And that really helped me kick things off. And my business grew quickly, and so did my family. Shortly after I started my business, I found out we were expecting twin girls. So that's why I won't let my son hear this interview. He'll be so mad I picked boys. But anyway, had twin girls and scaled the business back to just the bare minimum and kept it going, and then grew it as they grew. And here we are, basically.
Here it is. Well,
Yeah.
So along the way, what would you say were some of the key mistakes or pitfalls or things that most entrepreneurs run into that either taught you a lesson or that somehow was a wake-up call that said, well, okay, I'm not doing that again?
Not being very specific about the types of clients I wanted to work with. And honestly, I didn't know at the beginning what types of clients I wanted to work with. So I kind of had to learn that by the wrong choices. But serving anybody and everybody, I think that's a really huge problem that a lot of entrepreneurs have, and maybe even bigger businesses as well. It's just thinking that it's playing small to be specific about who we're targeting. But do you want to hear the rock bottom?
I do. Of course,
Okay.
I want to hear the rock bottom. That's the fun part.
This is like last straw. I had this erectile dysfunction expert reach out to me, and he's like, hey, I need help editing all of this content. And at first I was like, okay, well, I need the clients, sure. And then I was doing the work, and I could not get through it. I was laughing so hard. And I just figured, I need to be more specific about the type of missions I want to support. It's a great and noble cause that he's doing, but not for me. So
How do you pick? I mean, a lot of people say, okay, I fell into my niche, or my target market picked me. Or when people are faced with this decision, and this is true as any sort of entrepreneur, and certainly as a speaker, consultant, coach, professional service provider, we think that the world needs what we do. And on some level, that's probably true, but it's not a great business plan. So how did you tackle the decision? How do you recommend that people tune their radar to make that decision proactively?
There are a few ways to niche down, and that was a great lesson for me as well. For me, I saw niche as like one industry or one demographic. And that was a good place to start, but within a demographic or within an industry, there are so many different personality types. And with a service-based business, you don't want to have a wide range on your target there. So what I found to be great for me was to pick my niche based on a personality type, based on sort of not necessarily a worldview or moral view, because I have so many different clients and different.
You've got the amoral ones, you've got the criminals,
oh, yeah.
you've got all the bad girls and bad boys that are out there. It's terrible.
But overall, the impact that people want to have or the mentality that people want to have, it seems like a lot of them are similar, like within a varying range of industries. And they're just lovely people I've been able to attract. It's fantastic.
So how do you label those people when you're shouting this from the rooftops or when you're doing your stadium speech, right? We've got a football stadium full of people and you say, hey, like, in my world, it would be speakers and experts, come down to this corner. And if they're not a speaker, not an expert, which is going to be 94% of that football stadium, they're going to stay in their seats. They're going to eat their hot dogs and drink their soda. They're going to be fine. But those 6% of people are going to want to say, hey, this guy's calling my name. How do you call them out on your website, in your emails, in your social media? How do you sort of declare I am for these people? And then what label have you found that is effective?
To be honest, I haven't found a label that's been effective. And I don't know, because it has been so one-to-one, I haven't necessarily had to call out to a stadium. It's been more of a coffee shop and a lot of the people know each other. So I don't know if I'm a good enough expert on that to answer that question well, but I found that in my social media, if I can just be myself and not try to fit some mold that I'm being told is the necessary mold for a female entrepreneur or, I don't know, for an effective marketer. That's when I found people connect with me most and say, oh, wow, I just feel like I know you. When we talk on the phone the very first time, we have this comfort level because I showed up as myself. So yeah, I haven't tried the stadium approach yet, but that's a big yet because things are going.
So some people would call these, I just want to kind of dig into a little bit more of this because this is such an important decision and so many people screw it up. And folks are listening right now going, I'm screwed up with this right now myself. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to decide. Some people say, okay, well, I love what you said about it's really behavior based. It's about their behavior. It's about their values. It's about their characteristics or their traits, that it's not a certain profession. It's not chiropractors. It's not solopreneurs necessarily, but it's a certain kind of mindset or a certain kind of value system or behavior pattern. Some people would say, okay, I want to work with heart-centered entrepreneurs. And that has some good connotations and some bad connotations. And some people are attracted to that and some people are not. Other people say, well, I work with, there's 100 different names, right? It just is the vocabulary sometimes will itself attract and repel people. So are you saying heart-centered entrepreneurs? Are you saying vision, mission-based entrepreneurs? Just give us some scraps of what the language might sound like if you were to put a label on it.
Yeah, if I were to put a label on it, a lot of my clients have ended up being high impact, low drama, definitely heart-centered, but not in the mushy way, not in the kind of sparkly unicorns, that kind of way. Very real, very rooted, very committed to leaving this world better than they found it.
See, that's perfect. We got to play this podcast back and then write that down. And that goes on the website. That goes on your business card. That goes everywhere that you want it to go. Totally. So you're really clear on it. It sounds like the articulation of it might be still a little bit in play, but it sounds like you're crystal clear on who it is and more importantly, who it's not. So let's talk about your business. Let's talk about what is the current empire look like and what are you doing for these high impact, low drama entrepreneurs? I love that, by the way. High impact, low drama.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, what I'm doing now, so I've expanded my virtual assistant business to the point where I don't want to expand that anymore. If it expands any further, it's not going to work well. I tried building an agency. Not for me. But I am committed to helping businesses grow. And I am very passionate about what delegation can do for a business owner at the right time if they're prepared. And so what I've done is put together a program to teach entrepreneurs how to be prepared and how to get their businesses ready. I also offer a one-to-one service where if they want kind of done for you type deal, I help them find that dreamy virtual assistant situation. Because on the other side of my business, and this just happened because I had a bunch of friends asking what I was doing and how I was paying for things. They just wanted to make sure I wasn't doing anything illegal, probably.
Are you selling drugs again? That's the question I often get.
We know this is a thing for you. No, but just for other moms who want to work from home and who were in my situation that I was in, where I was being approached by multi-level marketers and being like, oh, I've been chosen for another opportunity here. There's got to be something else. For those moms, those women, doesn't have to be a mom. I've created a course to teach them how to build their own virtual assistant business. So I have this pool of amazing women who have been trained and taught how to dazzle clients, just like I have. So now I can connect them with business owners who are ready for them.
Hey, this interview is a real moneymaker. If you're serious about ramping up your reach and revenue as a speaker, trainer, or expert, book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. It will be the most valuable 45 minutes you invest in your speaking-driven business. Speaking of value, let's get back to the show. So this sounds like a fantastic, on one hand, a training and entrepreneurial development program. So if you're a solopreneur right now and you don't have a team, you don't have an executive assistant, you don't have a VA, but you'd love to do that because you've heard great things about doing that, and you know that you can only go so far as a company of one, the training of how to delegate, how to manage, how to let go, how to collaborate with a great person on your team. That's one aspect of it. And then once they learn that, they don't want to go out hunting and fishing on their own. They don't want to just randomly hire somebody off a job board or Craigslist or who knows what. The saying is, I think a lot of frustration in the virtual assistant business is you have to kiss a lot of frogs.
Yes.
And it sounds like you have removed the frog kissing process and you've got a team of princesses waiting to be matched. Are they all women or no?
Right now they are. Yeah. I'm open to teaching men. It's not like boys aren't allowed, but
princesses, right? We could do both. We could do both. And connecting them based on what the entrepreneur really wants and needs, and connecting them in sort of a matchmaking style.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll add to the training, not only do they learn how to delegate, but they learn how to prepare their business for delegation. Because a lot of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs who have built businesses over 2 to 5 years, usually that gap when they're I have a friend, Nikki Elledge Brown, who calls it business puberty, when they reach that point where they're growing and they're not sure what to do with it. There are a few things that make it a lot easier to work with a virtual assistant and to feel confident bringing someone else into your business behind the scenes.
So I definitely want to dig into a little bit of the tactical stuff that you teach. I have found, because certainly in building our team, and you like anyone else, we kind of build it one person at a time. And now we've got 6 fantastic people that work in our company, which is like, I still pinch myself and go, how did this happen? But it happened. I think the biggest leap is going from 0 to 1. Like you're a solopreneur, you got 0 contractors, 0 employees, 0 people on your team. Going from 0 to 1 is much harder than going from 1 to 3, 5 to 10, you name the number, because it's such a mindset shift. So we're going to talk about the tactical, practical in a moment. How do people really prepare their mindset? What's the entrepreneurial DNA driver that would motivate someone to say, you know what, I've waited too long. I have to do this. I'm now bumping up against my own limitations of the time, space, work continuum.
Yeah.
What's the driver behind that where, you got to let the mindset go first and then the tools and the tactics become what you need next?
It starts with being very real about what you're spending. Not just financially. A lot of entrepreneurs are very good. Well, so some entrepreneurs are very good with keeping books, right? We keep tabs on all of the dollars that go in and out of our business, but we can't quantify. And if we could, it would be so much easier, so much quicker to make this decision and make the shift. But there are other types of capital that are in play. There's time and there's energy. And what a lot of people are doing is spending a ridiculous amount of capital doing it themselves just because they're saving money by not having team members. And that's kind of how we have to start out, right? We spend the capital we have available. Sometimes the money is short, and so we don't spend that, but we spend time and energy. But if we look at all of them as capital, and we maybe even make a spreadsheet, if you can figure out a way to quantify your time and your energy, then you actually see, oh my gosh, like this is why I'm not growing at the pace I want to be, or this is why I feel so burned out, or this is why it feels like a tug of war between my family and my business. It's because you're spending the ridiculous amount of time and energy that you are. So once we look at that, then a lot of people are able to shift that and be more willing to invest the capital they need to bring somebody on board. It's like if you're hungry and you want a hamburger, you're craving a hamburger. You can go to the store and You don't have to like pick a place. You go to the store, you have your meat, you have your vegetables you want on it, you have your bread, maybe some cheese, something extra fancy. Then you can bring it home and you can cook it all yourself and go through that process. It's going to be done exactly the way you want to do it. You don't have to communicate with anybody. It'll be there. But like, if you're craving a hamburger, you just want a hamburger. You can go 5 minutes and find a McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever drive-through of choice you have. And they can make it happen for a lot less, actually, all of the capital probably in that example. But you just have to weigh that. Like, what am I building custom right now? And what am I willing to do a drive-through kind of situation on?
I also want to address the elephant in the room, which I've heard countless times, and I'm sure you've heard it even more than I have. People say, well, it gets back to the money aspect of it. I'll hire someone once I have the money, once I'm a little bit more established, then I'll hire someone. Mm-hmm. And, if it's your very first day in business, okay, but I never hear this from people that are in their first day of business. I want my business to grow a little bit, and then I'm going to hire my first team member. Never works that way. It never, ever, ever works that way. The people that are growing the business hired the team. I don't want to say this in a financially irresponsible way, but almost before they could afford it, because they knew that these other expenses, the time, the energy, the bandwidth, the focus, they could not grow their business until they got the help. Have you seen that? Have you seen that backwards thinking a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that there's nothing I can say to convince them. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, they have to learn it the hard way. And then they hire someone and they finally get to the last straw and hire somebody. And then they look back and they're like, why didn't I do that sooner? But, the question is, what is your time best spent doing in your business? At the very beginning, like everybody's just doing everything. But as you get one client, are you spending your time out there marketing and trying to hustle and get your name out there some more to get more clients? Or are you laser focused on delighting that client and building things that will generate revenue? That's what a virtual assistant can help you do. They can take the non-rocket science, non-unique gifts that only you can bring things, and they take those on while you go and do your zone of genius.
I want to go down the punch list just to whet people's appetite. And I'll share a little bit of my experience with this. And then I definitely want to talk about preparing the business for the virtual assistant for the team. Imagine never having to touch your email unless and until you want to, or there's something that only you can answer, you can provide. Imagine never touching your website. Imagine never having to answer the same routine, rote customer service type questions. Imagine never having to interface with your bookkeeper or accountant on standard bookkeeping and accounting. Can you send us this? Can you send us that? Imagine never having to reset a password, never having to make a travel arrangement, never having to book your own hotel room. I mean, my world has changed dramatically once I started a team. What else do people think? Oh, well, only I can manage my email. I was one of these people, by the way, Shalon. I was like, oh, only I can manage my email, which is patently insane. Now I have between 8 and 10 emails in my inbox at any given time. Sometimes it's even inbox zero. I used to have hundreds, or even, don't tell anyone, thousands of emails piled up. And I know, right? People are getting a heart attack.
No, I've seen so many.
And so all of those things that you think that you cannot delegate. Only I know what airline seat I want on the airplane. Only I know that I want the king, no smoking, window facing, don't put me in the parking lot, hotel room. My experience has been anything that you can write down, you can successfully delegate to somebody else to do those repetitive tasks. What else do some of your entrepreneurs, when they look back and they say, how did I ever live without this? What are some other tasks like that?
I know there are a lot of speakers in your audience, and so I've worked with a lot of speakers as well. And one of the biggest things I've been able to help with is all of the back and forth with the event coordination, the headshots, the descriptions of varying word minimums. It seems like every event kind of has their own set of criteria, but just going through that back and forth and providing also just a brief of the event itself. Who else is going to be there? What do you need to know about the other speakers? Who can we possibly network with? So that you can be prepared just doing your speech and rocking that. So that's a big one.
Things like sending books, workbooks, handouts, QR codes, slides, all that crazy stuff, right?
Adding links to things, testing links to things, finding people to reach out to proactively rather than putting marketing posts out there and just hoping.
Yeah, prospect research.
Come back. And even personal stuff, right? Like researching birthday venues for your child's birthday or sending a gift to your favorite clients or I don't know. So many things. Like I like how you put that. If you can write it down, it can be done. And I think a great first step for a lot of entrepreneurs before they feel comfortable hiring somebody is to practice delegating to themselves. So if you have a thought, oh, I need to do this, write that down. Or even send yourself a text or an email and say, hey, can you please do this? Here's what you need in order to get it done. It's a good productivity exercise and it's also a really good delegation muscle builder.
Super quick commercial break. Isn't this interview amazing? If you'd like to get more ideas on how to start or grow your speaking business fast, pop over to our free training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. Let's talk about your program and this whole concept of preparing the entrepreneurial business for the team to come in and for some of these handoffs to be smoother and easier for both parties, right? It's easier for the assistant. It's easier for the entrepreneur. What are some of the key things in that early phase of preparing the business?
So the first thing we do is we delete. We go through and make sure that the efforts you're putting in are actually serving your business. So that's the first part of the delete. And the other part is organization. Your business doesn't have to be squeaky clean, spotless, but we look at how your file structure is being handled. We look at your social media. Are you part of groups that you just joined for visibility but don't participate in? Stuff like that. So we go through a delete process, sort of a spring or fall cleaning, whatever the season of choice is. And then we go through and figure out what robots can you delegate to first, because humans are humans and there's always human error involved. Robots are programmed to hopefully not mess up so much or have as big of a learning curve with some things. So for instance, scheduling. There are plenty of robots out there who can schedule your appointments for you. All you have to do is connect them with your calendar, and then they'll be able to tell the people you're scheduling appointments with, here's when she has or he has available, pick a spot. So yeah, the first step is delete. The next step is automate. And then we talk about the delegation. And then we talk about focusing on generating revenue. And that's money revenue, that's time revenue, and that's energy revenue. So organizing yourself, being productive, and making the best use of the capital you have.
Totally fantastic. The name of the program is?
Virtual Assistant Prep School.
Ooh, Virtual Assistant Prep School.
And then you're prepped.
The entrepreneur goes through that, and then they can certainly do it themselves because you've equipped them to do that. If they want some help, then they come back for the matchmaking service.
Right. Yep.
And give us an idea of how that works. I mean, how do you know what David Newman needs? Is there some sort of assessment? Is there, hey, what platforms are you running? I've got Infusionsoft, Lead Pages, this, that. They should know these tools. They should know these things. Are they pre-trained to some degree? How does all that work?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. It's a strengths-based matchmaking. So I love Gallup Strengths Finder. Out of all of the personality assessments, I've found it to be the most accurate for me and many people I've spoken with. So we have you go through a strengths assessment if you haven't already. If you have, you just share your results with me. And we have potential VAs go through that strengths assessment. Not on your dime, by the way. So we look at your strengths and we find a virtual assistant who has a set of strengths that match or fit well with your set of strengths. There's no two combinations that are dream put together. But if you're aware of each other's strengths from the very beginning, then you're set up much better for success in the long run. And communication is so much easier. So we do the strengths assessment. And I get a full description of your tools of choice. We find virtual assistants who are either well-versed in that tool set or tech savvy enough and bright enough that they can take it on. Because honestly, there are new tools popping up every day and business owners can change that every day. So yeah, if we have a virtual assistant who's confident enough in her abilities and her willingness to ask questions and be trained, then that seems to be good enough as well. And then I like to set up an internship. I don't like to set up a long-term agreement for anybody because even with the dream set of strengths match, sometimes people just, don't mesh. And so it's good to set up a 5-hour internship and just do a project. We pick a project together and I sit there and mentor the virtual assistant through that project to make sure that the communication lines are open, to make sure that the tools are the actual tools that are needed, and then to request any additional resources or education for the VA.
So there's a lot of hand-holding, coaching, mentoring that if I were to just go out and hire my own person on my own, I would not benefit from. I wouldn't get that anywhere.
Right. Yeah. You would be doing that yourself, which is okay and good. And the virtual assistant of your choice may fit really well with that. But again, it's a capital thing, right? If you have the time and energy to spend mentoring and doing that hand-holding, then that's great.
I will tell you the other revolutionary thing in my business is that when I started really believing in all of these brilliant things that you're saying that are 100% true, I found myself with something completely new experience in my day. It was called white space. White space. And I would actually look at I'd have a 2-hour block of time and it was empty. And I almost went back to my team and I said, guys, what do you want me to do? And it's like, David, you can do whatever you want. We're good. We're running the company. We're running the business. And you just, you want to take a walk with the dog. You want to put your feet up and think about your next big idea, your next big revenue generating opportunity, your next book, your next speech, your next program. We're good. Kind of like leave us alone. We're good.
Love it.
And, for the first few times this happened, I was having existential crisis. Like if I'm not crazy busy, if I'm not jammed every moment of every day, if I have this white space, oh my God, who am I now? It's like, I'm a forward-thinking entrepreneur that has time to think and breathe and create and come up with new ideas and new services. And like you said, new ways to add value to my clients and to improve the client experience and to improve the programs that we have and to write books and to write speeches and to cogitate and to daydream and to look out the window and figure out what's the next big thing in our company's business. And that is the job of the CEO. That's the job of the owner, is to strategize, daydream, percolate, marinate, and set the vision for your company's future. If you're sitting there, doing your bookkeeping, or if you're futzing with your lead pages and trying to get that gosh darn thing to work for the 75th time, you're not the CEO, right? So there's a great saying that I think I maybe even picked up from you that, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
It's so true. Exactly.
So I'm going to ask you 2 final questions. The second question out of the 2 is going to be, how do people get connected and stay connected to all this wonderfulness, Shalon, that you've shared? The first question before that is, if people were to take one key concept from our conversation today, what would you hope that would be?
The capital. Look at what you're spending and figure out if you want to spend it differently.
Amen. Amen. And how? All right. How do people connect with all this wonderful? And we're going to put this in the show notes. We're going to have links down below. When people go to thespeakingshow.com, they'll have all of these, but let's wet their whistle. Where can they go to get more Shalon?
Yeah, go to virtualassistantprepschool.com. And there's free training there. It's not in your typical sales funnel or anything like that, because I know your time is valuable and funnels. I'm not going to make you wait 5 days to go through a training. You will give me your email address, but that's to access your username and password. So it's a training that lives there and you can go through, and they're just mini videos and we can go through together and teach you more about delegation.
One super important question I forgot to ask, can people kind of jump the line and go right for the matchmaking without doing the training, or you prefer they don't do that?
No, absolutely. And there's a link on the page for Virtual Assistant Prep School for that as well.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you. It is so fantastic to have an expert here that can give us our lives back as entrepreneurs. Give us the white space, give us the emotional capital, focus capital, bandwidth capital, financial capital. I love what you said about, first we delete, then we automate, then we delegate, then we monetize, because people have to understand there is a direct line to revenue when you do what Shalon is suggesting. And it is a huge, huge accelerator to your entrepreneurial progress. So thank you, my friend. I can't wait to have you back on.
Thanks for having me here. It's been so fun.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.